All right, let's, looks like it's about 5 o'clock. Why don't we go ahead and call this meeting to order? I believe we need to do a roll call. Trustee Wood, are you here? Trustee Wood, can you hear me?
Me? How's that? Yes, here.
Good, okay, thank you. Trustee Howard?
Present. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
No worries. Trustee Barnes?
I am present.
Thank you. And Trustee McKenzie?
Present physically.
And myself, I'm here also, so that's 5. We have a quorum. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Marc Lyons.
Mark, I think, yes, please.
Okay, I want to make a comment here for the public. I want to remind the members of the public that this is a business meeting of the North Idaho College Board of Trustees. Under the Open Meeting Act, this business meeting takes place in a public setting so that members of the public can view the meeting. Public comment is sometimes taken on agenda items at regular monthly meetings, but there is no requirement in the law for public comment, and public comment will not be taken at this special meeting. I also need to say that we are aware of the recommendation of the Idaho Governor's Stage 3 Stay Healthy guidelines that gatherings should be limited to 50 or fewer people and that physical distancing should be maintained in indoor settings. The room reserved for this meeting is limited to 15 people due to its size and taking into account the Idaho guidelines physical distancing criteria. Members of the public can view this meeting through the Zoom link listed on the agenda. Now, the first item for this board meeting is a question of amending the agenda. If there's a motion to amend the agenda to eliminate the remarks for the good of the order listing, the Open Meeting Act requires that happen at the beginning of this meeting. So back, Mr. Chairman, it's back to you.
Do I have a motion?
I make the motion to agenda amend it as updated on today.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Are there any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, discussion.
Yes.
The amendment, you didn't state out loud what it was, but I understand the amendment is to remove the ability for the board to have comments under good of the order.
It was my understanding that that was put on in air and just as a boilerplate from our normal board meeting. We don't normally have for the good of the order in a special session. So we're just staying consistent with what's normally a special session. Same as we're not having the public comment. I spoke with Mr. Lyons about these things.
Okay, well, I guess I don't see it as our regular course of action. We've already removed the public's ability to comment from this meeting. And with this motion, we would also be removing some of the board's ability to comment. And so I'm a little concerned, one, about transparency to the public. And I also don't know, what's next. Do we not allow the free press to attend? So I don't understand the motive behind this motion that we would eliminate the board's opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. So for that reason, I am against the motion.
Are there any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a comment. The comments for the good of the order are generally, first of all, they're at the end of the proceeding. And the way we've used them in the past is to try and bring some closure to some of the issues that may have been discussed. I find them generally more positive than negative in nature. And quite frankly, this is one of those discussions that I'm not sure where we're going to go with some of these issues, but the fact that we've had, last count I saw, about 170 members of the public that have tuned into this. I think leaving the option open at the end for comments for the good of the order would be appropriate. And I would oppose closing that off just simply because I think this is our opportunity to speak to the public as well as to the trustees.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
Do you have something to say? Greg, you can
Okay, please.
wait till the camera's on. I don't understand why people just can't say what they have to say when the agenda items come up. So for that, I stick with the motion to amend.
All right, thank you. At this time, I will take a vote on the motion to eliminate the for the good of the order at the end of the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those that say nay.
No,
No,
Chair votes A. The motion carries 3-2. We will move on to the first agenda item. I have the folks in charge of that, or Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Howard. I don't know which of you would like to speak first.
Trustee Howard, you there if I go first?
oh, that's fine.
Recent events have just uncovered basically a general need for board training, and I've researched various venues, and I've provided everyone through email something to consider that we can discuss here for training through the AGB, Association of Governance Board, and I've explored them. A lot of my research as being a trustee, I keep going across articles, and it keeps drawing me back there. I got respect for ACCT and AGB, but I would looking forward to, they have an upcoming training session, I believe in April, and I'd like to pursue my trustee careership, if you would, with that organization. And just last March is, I feel like the last executive session, not to say what happened into it, but I did come away from that executive session with the general impression that some board training would be good for every trustee on the board. So it's been a while since we've conducted that. I'm done with my remarks.
All right, thank you. Ken, do
Yes.
you have something? Please.
I quite frankly concur in the training. Historically, trustees have gone through training in how to be a trustee, especially when we come on board and we don't have a prior experience, especially with community college relations to the administration and the relations between trustees. So it's a good idea. It would be hard to say it's a bad idea, quite honestly. Now the next question is, how quickly can we do it? Because I think it's obviously manifestly needed. How quickly can we do it, and who's the best agent to help us with that? And ACCT, American Association of Community Colleges, or College Trustees, excuse me, has historically done this for us. We have attended not just trustee training sessions, but overall seminars and sessions with the American Association of Community or College Trustees, and they've been beneficial. We pay an annual fee to become a member of these associations, so we have access to their training opportunities. And not only have we used them for training, but they've assisted us in presidential searches by providing expertise and access to community college resources around the country. Community colleges are unique. They're unique in their governance. They're not like four-year institutions. And around the country, the relationship between trustees and administration is an important ingredient, critical ingredient indeed, to ensuring that these institutions run well. So I would encourage us to do that, but I would encourage us to use our existing resource through the College of American Association of College Trustees, Community College Trustees.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I would agree that professional development is always a good goal for this board, so I certainly support the motion of professional development. I didn't understand that tonight we'd be deciding, it's not listed on the agenda, as to who we would seek that from. I would want a little more information on the cost of it. And since we are already part of a membership that we've paid for with ACCT, I guess I would concur with Mr. Howard that would probably make more sense. I'm sure AGB is a wonderful provider as well. It's just that we already have paid for a membership with the other companies. So it seems a little bit irresponsible tonight to make a decision on that. Maybe we could talk about that and put it on the agenda as an actual item and look at the pros and cons and the cost of each. But I completely agree with the professional development.
Trustee, Chair Banducci,
Yes, go ahead.
just to provide clarification, AGB has extended a very gracious offer for to basically negate the membership. We attend the upcoming seminar in late April to the details are still forthcoming. They didn't print them out, sadly. But basically, it negates the membership, which is pretty much the same fee as ACCT. So also, what I'm proposing that we do as member training is that we basically elect me to identify which training to produce for the board. And working with AGB, they actually provide customized training specific to community colleges as they are unique from four-year universities. And AGB does have a focus in that area, which is great. And they provide customized training to our institution, to our problems. So basically, for everyone's knows, these memberships, they cost about $4,000 a year. And then later on, we'll talk about conflict management and consultant. But basically, they cost about $4,000 to hire some training and some a consultant to work with our board.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, yes, sir. Go ahead.
I am very eager to move into a phase of learning and training for us that are new to this. So I'm all in favor of that. I also agree with Christy Wood that we should probably investigate the cost and benefits of both. So I move that we agree to pursue training and to put on the agenda for next meeting to review the cost benefits of the two options.
I second that motion.
Okay. Discussion.
Mr.
I'm
Chair.
understanding. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My understanding is that we had been members of AGB in the past, so we have some familiarity with this organization and have worked with them in the past. That's my understanding.
Our membership dropped.
In what year was that again?
2017.
Okay. Thank you. Ken, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my only comment was that I would like to see, I would agree that we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting when we have more information in terms of not only the financial aspects of it, but also get some recommendations maybe from some other community colleges who have utilized the services of the different organizations. So we have some background We've used the services of the Association of Community College Trustees. We haven't used the services of the other organizations. So I'd like some more information. So, and I would like to see us have the administration gather that information and to present it to us in terms of the organizations that are available and any background information that might be available to us and useful in us making our decision.
Okay. Is there any additional comment? Well, I will say this. I did review some of the AGB materials and reviewed the organization, and they look pretty solid to me. I've had experience with ACCT, obviously, and actually, as some of you are aware, I've presented with a couple of the instructors there in the national conferences and have attended several of those and have been involved in some of the training that they provide. So I think they're both worthy organizations. I did like some of what I saw with AGB, and I guess maybe it's not a bad thing to be affiliated with two quality organizations and have them both as resources. I think the cost is pretty minimal to do that. And as Trustee McKenzie indicated, if we take advantage of some of their services, there sounds like there's going to be a financial offset, which would reduce our cost. And so some things to consider. Are there any other comments before we take a vote on the motion that Trustee Barnes made and, excuse me, Trustee Wood made and Trustee Barnes seconded?
Just to be clear, I think it's a friendly amendment. I think that we're going to have the administration gather training options and present the board two options or the various options that would provide board training.
Well, are we looking at both ACCT and AGB? Is that what the administration is going to look at? Is that what I'm understanding? They would bring us information on both of those?
I think those two are going to be included among others that want to partake that the administration is aware of, I'm sure.
Is that the intention of the two, the folks that made the motion and seconded the motion? Is that your intent?
I made the motion that we agree that we want to pursue training and that we make it an agenda item for next meeting that we discuss the options.
Yes.
Okay.
I called it.
Okay.
And my suggestion,
Ken, go ahead.
My suggestion as part of Trustee Barnes's motion is that in order for us to consider it in an intelligent way at the next meeting, that the administration provide some background material in terms of cost and that sort of thing. And that's mostly for us to be able to make an intelligent and informed decision.
I agree. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, do we have, I'll tell you, I'm inclined to agree with that. Both Ken and Trustee Howard, Trustee Barnes. Although I will say this, I think Trustee McKenzie has done quite a bit of legwork on this and research. So if the administration is going to present these options to us, I think I'd like to have him engaged with that, and because I think he has some valuable information that could be helpful. He's already done some of the research and legwork and has the information. So I think that would make the task easier if he was involved with that. So I think my caveat to that would be if the administration is going to prepare choices, options for us, I would like to have Trustee McKenzie as a part of that process, since he's already done quite a bit of work and invested a significant amount of time on this. So I think he already has some insights that he's gleaned and information.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sounds like you're calling for an amendment to the motion.
I am, because we've got, Mr. Lyons, I may need your help here for a moment, sir. We've got the motion that we want to put an agenda item and discuss the training. Then we have an amendment that the administration would help to secure the information to look at options. And am I amending the amendment, or am I just altering the First Amendment and saying that I would like to have Trustee McKenzie as a part of that process.
I don't know that we need to amend the amendment. The motion, or amend the motion. The motion is to have the training issue explored and discussed by the board on the next meeting. Trustee McKenzie has materials and information. He can provide that to the administration. The administration can put it together with whatever other options they have. If that doesn't satisfy, if there's something more specific that you want in the motion, then we could discuss an amendment to it. But seems to me the gravamen of the motion is to make sure that this training issue and discussion of options is on the February monthly meeting.
Do any of you other 4 trustees, or let me say it this way, does that sound acceptable to you other 4 trustees, or does anybody have a comment on that, or not in agreement?
Yeah, I'm inclined. Oh, go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Howard. I'm curious what you have to say.
I'm listening to the motion in a second, and I'm inclined to vote for that. And all I want to do is have enough information available when we do talk about it to do it intelligently. So wherever the information comes from, I don't care, just so we get information on the resources available to us and the costs. So I don't think we need to amend anything, but we just need to vote on the motion and then have the administration put together the information along with any assistance that they might get from Trustee McKenzie.
I would go on what Trustee Howard said, as in I believe that it would be a redundant amendment, because I would hope as the bids come in or as the information come in that they would be provided to all 5 of us trustees with not discussions through email, but that we should be able to, as they come in, be provided the information to maybe even query the ACCT or AGB or extra administration before the next meeting, so then we can have a robust discussion before. So I would assume it would already be done. So
May I interrupt?
Yeah. Yes. Who is this? Mark? Sorry,
Right.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to remind the board members that you shouldn't be sharing this information with each other in advance. The proper way to do this is submit information to the administration, have the administration do the presentation at the open meeting and at the end of February.
Can I call a question on the motion?
You certainly can, sir, but may I ask a question first of Mr. Lyons? Just for clarification, Mark, on what you just shared, if I may. And Ken, I'll get right back to you, I promise. Is the administration allowed to send us information in advance, just in preparation for that meeting? If we're not discussing it amongst ourselves, can they still provide us in advance some material for our review and such? Because again, we could end up at a meeting, be giving options, a significant amount of information, and maybe being asked to make a decision without really had a chance to go over it, read through it, digest it, process it, and think about it, and maybe formulate appropriate questions or even do our own, due diligence, whatever. So that'd be my only concern, is when I just get everything just cold in one large pile at the meeting at the end of February here on the 24th. I'm not sure that gives us the best decision-making paradigm. Just for me personally, I have a tendency to like to kind of roll things over a little bit. What do you think, sir?
What concerns me primarily is if board members sharing information that might relate to a decision the board would make outside of the meeting, that involves the Open Meeting Act issues. Deliberations are things that are supposed to take place in an open meeting. The definition of deliberations under the Open Meeting Act includes the gathering and reviewing of information. Typically, the administration will send the information out to the board, shortly in advance of the meeting, so you may have access to it then. That's the purpose of these open meetings, and the Open Meetings Acts is to make sure that the public is able to view the discussions and the deliberations of the board members in a public meeting.
Mr. Lyons?
Certainly.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain the difference? So when we were having the Myers Health expansion, we were provided a big packet beforehand. How is that any different than what's going on right now?
Well, it's about the same, but what you should not be doing is sharing back and forth with other board members and getting preparation, figuring out which way you're going to vote in advance of the meeting.
Exactly. So we're saying a one-way communication from the administration to the trustees so we can consume the information and not have a conversation in emails.
Yes, I understand that. My concern is if the board members start sharing that information. So
don't do that.
Correct.
Okay, so the proviso would be we would appreciate the information as far in advance as possible, but with the understanding that each of us individually works with that information.
Yes. By the way,
Go ahead, Ken.
I got to make a comment. This is exactly why we need board training, because this is one of the primary issues that's involved in the board training. I would like to move forward with voting on the motion.
You did call for the question, sir. I appreciate a little grace there, so we could ask get a little additional information, ask a couple questions to flesh this out a little bit. All right, so we have the motion to put this on the agenda on the 24th of February, and for the administration to assemble the information as we look at least a couple options, hopefully, and determine the best course of action for the training. Mr. Lyons, that sound about right for the motion? We good?
I think that's close enough. Yes.
All right. All right. We'll go ahead and we'll do a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that was Barnes said aye and Howard said aye.
We all did, Todd.
Okay, sorry, I can't hear very well. So Christy, you did too?
Yeah.
And Greg, you did too?
Yep.
Okay, I will say aye also, so that's the motion passes 5-0. Okay, sorry, I just couldn't hear everybody. Okay, so I think we're done with agenda item number 1. Let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 2. Again, that's Trustee Howard and Trustee McKenzie. Don't know which of you chooses to speak first.
Volunteer.
All right, how about Trustee McKenzie? We'll start that way, if that's okay with Trustee Howard.
Yes, that's fine.
As a new trustee of 2 years, I would appreciate mentoring, if you would, by another trustee who has a neutral stance of being a trustee. And so I can basically ask them questions because they've been in these shoes before. And with my exposure to AGB, which I'm not particular to any one institution, but basically they've described their services, and you can hire a consultant to basically help guide through board conflict. And I feel like that's what we need right now. And I would basically they're confidential services where the conflict management person would sit down with each board member individually, confidentially, and as a whole, and just provide general feedback and guidance. So it's more than training, it's specific to our trustees and the people on.
All right, thank you. Trustee Howard, something to add to that, sir?
Yes. It is clear that we are in a present situation where we are having difficulties amongst the trustees, and between the trustees, some of the trustees anyway, and the administration. We do need some resolution to this. And I'm not sure what the proper vehicle for that would be, but some kind of conflict management or mentoring certainly holds some promise. What I find challenging is going to be finding somebody who's going to be able to address the issues that we're confronting now, and particularly somebody who's familiar with community college standards and community college practices and the relationships between administration and trustees who are elected by the public. And not all conflict managers have that kind of background, even though they may understand resolution of conflict. They may not understand the issue. So I think we need to move cautiously in finding somebody to address that issue. But I would support it if we find somebody who I think can address the issue properly. But that's a decision I think that we as trustees have to collectively say, yes, I agree, because you're gonna have to submit to it and you're gonna have to listen to the counseling that we get.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Trustee Wood, go ahead.
Well, I'm very curious of this agenda item because it, you know, there isn't any supporting documents. So I'm hearing what Trustee McKenzie has to say. I don't know about conflict that implies disagreement, and I don't have a disagreement with Trustee McKenzie. I don't have a disagreement with Trustee Barnes. I don't normally have a disagreement with Trustee Banducci or Trustee Howard. The issues that have come up are really about identifying behaviors. So I don't know that sitting with a person one-on-one and trying to discuss kind of conflict, and I don't feel that I have a conflict with you. And so I would need to know a lot more about it, and I also would need to know what it would cost once again. Before we do not start spending taxpayer dollars again. And it might not really address the issue. So I guess I agree with Trustee Howard that we're going to need to know a lot more about it. And maybe that would be another thing that we could look at, do some research on, and put it on another agenda.
All right, are there any other comments? You know, at some point it's hard to parse between what appears to be conflict and what's the destruction in personal politics. And I guess I'm open to this process to see if we can work on the relationships between the trustees, because we need to be able to find a path to move forward at this point. So did I hear a suggestion from you, Trustee Wood, that you'd like to see this potentially as an agenda item on the 24th of February, also as maybe a companion agenda item to the one we just passed?
Well, that would be a proper path forward. It maybe doesn't even have to be that fast. But again, we've had the administration do some research for us, help us understand exactly what's being proposed. And if all of us were comfortable with it, and we thought that it was a good direction to go. And the cost of it as well.
Okay. Am I hearing a motion, or do we have any other comments?
One more comment, Greg does.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess I just have a lot of questions of, is this normal? For example, the faculty the full-time faculty just voted for a vote of no confidence, and tomorrow, I believe that the Senate, the staff assembly is going to take a similar vote with a similar supporting documents. And well, those are I take them very seriously, and I value the people who work here's opinion. And it would be nice to have an additional prior trustee or prior president who's experienced similar occurrences, a neutral extra party to just at least for me to query and on what steps I should take.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, I can tell you that as far as the vote of no confidence, in the history of this institution, what I do know after being here 16 years, is that I believe there's maybe been 3 times in 87 years that there's been a vote of no confidence, and that was normally directed at the president of the institution. Never been directed at the board or board members, and it is a very serious action. When your employees are speaking up in that manner, it is something we should take very seriously. So I don't disagree that you're looking for a revolution. I'm just not sure this is it. So I'd like to see a lot more information on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President,
Chairman.
Is that you, Michael?
Yes, it is.
Trustee Barnes?
Yes.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Obviously, to deny that there isn't conflict that needs to be resolved is ludicrous, in my opinion. With that said, in light of the fact that we are pursuing education as board members, I would move that we table this until we have completed some relevant board education.
I could second that motion.
well,
Discussion?
Discussion.
I have a motion and a second. Ken, did you have something, sir?
Yeah.
Trustee Howard?
I do. Quite honestly, I don't see a whole lot of difference between mentoring and training. And I think that the concept of mentoring will be, it will be accompanied with the training. So we're going to receive the benefit of not just training about what's expected of us, but also discussions about the history of how we've done things and what's a better way to do them. So the mentoring, I think, will be probably involved in that. The conflict management, I think, is a different issue, quite frankly. And maybe that should await some further definition and maybe an opportunity to see if training / mentoring is corrective. And it may well be, but I see them as different issues.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Contrary comment to the current motion.
Yes, please, go ahead.
It seems like, I believe normally when contracts happen, options can be exercised. If that, maybe that can be presented with the member training, as in full board level training, and then option A, B, or C for different levels of mentoring or different levels of conflict management consultant. Naturally, there would just be quotes, but to make an informed decision, seems like that would be beneficial.
That seems like a natural part of that. That makes sense. Okay.
Question the current motion and maybe start over if it fails.
Well, actually, more discussion, please. I think there's plenty of time to delve into that, but I do support what Michael has said and what Ken has said, especially because really we could resolve a lot of questions or the mentoring you're looking through some of the professional development that we've already identified that we're going to see. So I don't know that we need to do it all at once. I'd like to see what comes out of the professional side. So that's why I agree with tabling the item.
Here's what I would say is for myself here. If the administration is going to put together some options for us, I don't think it is that much of a stretch to look at it in sort of like a cafeteria plan. We can have the base training, and there could be options that are available that can be added for additional fees. So I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards what Greg was saying, that maybe we can table it per se, with the training being more the conversation, but yet when it's presented, we can see what some of the additional add-ons or options or accessories or whatever you want to call them could be available as we extend the basic training package that we're looking at, that there may be additional things that could be added. I suspect, like with most things, if you buy it standalone, it's going to be this price. If you buy it as a part of the package, it's only going to be this much additionally. So that information, as much as we can have initially, might be helpful. So I'd like to encourage that. And again, maybe it's all comes together as one discussion. Okay.
The seconded motion, we would have to back out.
So I would call for the question on the motion.
I want to be clear on the motion. The motion is saying to table the discussion of the mentoring, conflict resolution, consultant, that sort of stuff. And does that mean then that we're not going to be getting the information on that if it's coincident with the other information that we're getting?
Correct. That's my understanding.
Is that your intention, Trustee Barnes? It was your motion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As Christy said, I think we don't want to get too many things going at the same time. I think we should pursue the training option first.
All right. Thank you. All right. Trustee Wood called for the question. All those in favor of this amendment to table this item at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I got to be honest, I can't tell who I heard, so I'm going to ask individually. Chair Howard, did you say aye?
Yes.
Trustee Howard said aye. Trustee Wood?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I could hear you there. Trustee Barnes?
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie, did you vote?
I said, did not vote aye. I'm a nay. But you
You're a nay, okay. I'm going to be a nay also, but the motion carries 3-2. I'd like to see them parallel, but we're okay either way, I think. I think we're going to end up discussing both together in some fashion. All right, so.
Mr. Chairman, this is Marc Lyons again.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify, this was originally a motion to table this item, and there was not an amendment made. So just for the record, the motion to table passed.
Yes, sir. I believe that is correct. Anything else, sir?
No, not from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. All right. I think that takes us to agenda item number 3. And again, I believe that's Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Howard.
Again, I would yield to Trustee McKenzie in our discussions to arrive at a special meeting. This was his suggestion, so I'll let him address it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Trustee McKenzie, please.
I appreciate everyone bearing with me through its special session. It's come to my attention that the lawyer services for the various entities that I'm now part of after the election, it seems that it's not being done how it has been explained to me by someone, and I just wanted to bring it up for conversation to address what seems to me a conflict of interest. Now, before I say what I'm going to say, I just want to say I've got high regards for Marc Lyons. I think he's great. I like him very much, and this is no reflection on him or his services, but it's been explained to me that the board entity, as in the Board of Trustees, is its own essentially legal entity. Then you have NIC College, which starts at the president and down, and that's its own legal entity. And then you have us individual board of trustee members, which would be me personally, as if someone were going to sue me for something. So you have 3 separate entities, and I only see one lawyer services for those separate entities. And to me, that seems problematic. Now, again, I like Marc Lyons. He's great, big fan. But it's come up in an email January 19th, and we're just now getting around to discussing it, that the lawyer services last went out for bid in 1998. And everyone should have this email. It was January 19th at 1:34 p.m. And even in that contract, it says it was supposed to expire after 6 years. But then again, Marc Lyons has been doing a great job. But it just seems that it's not the way it should be done with the varying entities now. So that's the discussion. I assume we'll make a board decision on it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Well,
go ahead. Trustee Wood.
I see this as an action item, and I have requested twice for any information on this action item, and I have not been provided any information. And I don't know if maybe you and Trustee McKenzie have had some discussions about what you think our legal services should be, but there's literally no supporting documentation, no staff support to even have a good discussion on this. I'm not sure what the motion will be. You've opened up for discussion, but it's an action item. So as far as Mr. Lyons is concerned, I concur with you. He does a wonderful job. He has institutional knowledge of North Idaho College. It's been very valuable to this board over many, many, many years. And I would hate to have to replace that. Marc, you do a fantastic job. So I'm not, you suggested that there are 3 different entities. And I would suggest to you that North Idaho College is one. And this board and the president and the employees, we're all of the same institution. And we all work together in the same direction. The board attorney works for the board. But of course, he's available to our president, who is a team member of ours, for legal consultation on issues that normally are about land issues, sometimes personnel, but he is serving the entire institution. So I'm not sure, Greg, are you talking that you think trustees need their own attorney aside from the college attorney? I'm not really understanding your discussion point.
My discussion point is not that there is, but if there was a differing of legal opinions between maybe board members and, well, in this instance, the president, because that's mainly the contract and, or the institution, NIC institution and down, that if Mr. Lyons were to represent both entities in a case, that would be problematic.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask a couple more questions. I'm trying to follow along.
Nothing.
So you're suggesting that at some point the president would need different legal representation than the board would?
No, NIC Foundation institution. Just saying, that's how it was explained to me by a lawyer. Ken Howard, can you please weigh in?
I'd be happy to. I got to tell you, I mean, as a lawyer, many of you know I'm a lawyer, and I can tell you that conflicts of interest are primary issues for lawyers. We pay more attention to the potential for conflict of interest and how to resolve conflicts of interest than probably any other profession. And quite honestly, on this particular recommendation, I don't see a conflict of interest. None has been identified. And if you look at it, almost every corporation and mid-sized business has conflicting interests within its boards of directors and within its officers. And what happens is you have one lawyer for the business. Now, what happens when there is a conflict of interest? There are rules that would govern the conduct of lawyers. Maybe like in Mark's position, he may have to withdraw completely and allow substitution of a new lawyer for the board and one for the college, for instance, if there was a conflict of interest. I see no reason to go to the expense right now of anticipating that there will be a conflict of interest and paying the cost of that, and maybe even inviting contrary opinions when there really isn't a controversy at all.
Mr. Chairman, if there's an opportunity, I would like to comment.
Sure, go ahead, Mark, because I'm holding back. I'll wait. I want to see if everybody else. So why don't you go ahead now?
Okay, so this is a new question for me. There is one entity that is the North Idaho Community College. It is recognized as a single entity in the statutes, and it consists of both the administration and the Board of Trustees acting as a board. So I would submit that there are not two entities. The board is not a separate entity from the college. The board is part of the college, just like the administration is part of the college. Just like instruction is part of the college. So now if we're talking about the foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and I do not represent the foundation. When the foundation has legal issues, they have typically gone to other law firms. So I would agree that the foundation is a separate entity than the college, but the college consists of both the administration and the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Trustee Barnes, do you have anything that you would like to add? Michael?
You're muted. Mike, you're muted.
Trustee Barnes?
He's muted.
Oh, okay. Give it just a moment then. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead for a moment while we.
Okay, no, I got it unmuted. You did something. I lost internet connection briefly, had to reconnect. I was suddenly unable to unmute myself. So I missed a little bit of the discussion. I did have a question for Mr. Lyons. In the interest of cutting to the chase on this, to me, it sounds like the question is, do you now have a current contract, and is it a requirement to have a current contract for your services?
I do have a current contract, and it is very brief. It's an at-will contract. It specifies that I will do what the college requests for legal services, and I will provide certain billing reports as is standard. It's on one page, and so yes, there is a written agreement that memorializes what I am currently doing. In terms of, is there a requirement? No, what is required in law is that originally at some point a board of the Board of Trustees has the specific authority in the statutes to select legal counsel for the college. So my firm was selected as for legal counsel by the college, and we've continued to do that as long as the college has wanted us to do that. So basically we serve at the will of the college.
All right, well, okay. Is there anybody else that wants to comment, or otherwise I'm gonna take a moment and comment? I may have a slightly different view than. I actually see it as 7 different entities. I see the college, I see the board, I see 5 individual trustees, with the veiled and actual threats that have been made. I know the two new trustees have been put on their heels a little bit and wondering if they're going to need legal counsel, legal services, whether they should have an attorney with them and record every conversation and be nervous about what could happen to them if somebody disagrees with them. So it's been a little, I think, unnerving watching how this has operated the last couple months. And I am concerned about conflict of interest if the board for some reason was not in alignment with the administration. Maybe there's two different directions that could be going, and that could present an interesting challenge. And then for the individual trustees themselves, what do they need to do to protect themselves? They're volunteers, not being paid, doing this, and yet they appear to be exposed. And if there's others that are, making them uncomfortable in this position, legally, that's not ideal either. So, and the other issue is, and I'm sure I'm going to hear a comment after I say this, but I'm going to point this out. When Mr. Lyons changed firms from Ramsden Lyons to Lyons O'Dowd, I specifically asked the question, hey, who's this contract with? Is it with him or with his firm? Nobody would answer that. I was basically told to sit down and shut up. Other trustees made it clear that I was obviously asking questions and venturing somewhere I didn't need to be, because I wanted to know. I'm about that. I'm about the contracts. I kind of go back to what Greg asked, and even to Michael. Is there a legal contract? We are a public entity. We spend public funds. There should be contracts that are led on regular cycles. I asked for that, all the service contracts and all that. I finally just got it. There's several things that I've been asking for years that I finally just got within the last month or so, surprisingly or not. And that was one of them. What's the status? Never knew. Now, I have a copy of what's supposed to be Mr. Lyons' contract. Got it from, I believe I got it from Chris. And it's dated 98, 99 timeframe. That's the only thing I've been provided. So as far as I could tell, I don't see a current contract, and that contract was with Ramsden Lyons. It was not with Mr. Lyons personally. So if there's a one-page contract, when I requested to have a copy of that contract, that's not what was provided to me. Because when I became board chair, I asked some questions, wanted to know where we were at with some things, what was our status, and wanted to get up to speed as board chair. And that's just an example of one thing. And there's times people said, well, you're always in the loop on everything. No, that's not true. And this is a perfect example of it. And now I'm hearing something for the very first time from Mr. Lyons himself about what his actual contract consists of, and that it does exist. And I guess the question for Mark, is it with you personally, or is it with your firm, Lyons O'Dowd?
I can answer that.
No, please. And I'd like to get a copy of it too, at somebody's convenience.
Sure, I'm happy. It's a public document, and if anybody wants to see it, they're certainly welcome to see it. My law firm does provide a variety of services. I have other lawyers here, Megan O'Dowd and Annie Harris, and we provide advice to the business office. We provide advice to and services to HR and things like contracting, and we review contracts. We do a variety of things, day-to-day things that are needed by the college for legal services. And one part of what we provide is advice and counseling to the Board of Trustees.
Mr. Chair.
Appreciate you explaining that for the audience. And again, this isn't anything that I have against Mr. Lyons. I just want everybody to know that I work very well with Mr. Lyons. In fact, if people have noticed at the board meetings for years, he and I have sat next to each other, and we get along quite well. So this is certainly not an attack on Mr. Lyons by any stretch. And I just want everybody to understand that. I appreciate him very much. Mr. Howard, did I hear you?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please, sir.
I guess maybe I'm a little bit puzzled. I don't know why this topic needed to be a topic of a special meeting. It seems to me this could be and should be part of a normal agenda in terms of contracts for legal services, and all of these questions can be put forward then. When I agreed to this topic I thought there was something that Mr. McKenzie wanted to talk about that was out of the ordinary. I haven't heard that. What I've heard is that there's a question about ongoing contractual relationships, and that ought to be a topic for a regular agenda meeting.
Well, okay. Well, Mr. Howard, I would suggest one thing, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. Again, I kind of see this a little different as 7 different entities. And because of everything that's been swirling around the last couple months, and I can't speak for Mr. McKenzie, but if you're a trustee and you don't know what your status is with Mark and what your client attorney privilege is and what you could say to him, and with other things going on, and you've got board as a whole, and you've got the college, there might be some question as to, okay, what is the appropriate representation? Who is represented and how? And is there potential for conflict of interest? And so, I don't know, maybe that was part of the thought process there. I'll let Mr. McKenzie speak to that. I'm just surmising possibly, and the fact of, Mr. Barnes asked the question, none of the, I think some of the folks here, some of the trustees weren't aware if we had even a current contract or where we were at legally and that sort of thing. So I think there were some questions there as we're dealing with some things here that are certainly bordering on some legal considerations and concerns.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
You raised questions that deserve answers to the extent that you're concerned about the relationship that you may have with the college's lawyer and that sort of thing. But again, I think that's a great topic for trustee training, because I remember going through that originally when I got on board. Who's the attorney and who does he represent? So those are good topics for us to cover into trustee training. But with regard to what are we going to do with this topic tonight, I'm still confused.
Well, with your indulgence, let's go to Trustee McKenzie and see what he can add to this if we can. Trustee McKenzie, please.
I'll reference this in a later talk, but Trustee Wood mentioned the ability to FOIA Todd's personal communications as they relate to college business. And that's had me scratching my head ever since. If Laura Rumpler, who complies with the FOIA request, is going to come knocking on my door to see my personal communications, what if somebody emails me from the community a question of me being a trustee like I did to you when I was on the campaign? Is that college-related business?
I'd like to respond.
So it's provided a lot of angst, and I've just basically told people, don't talk to me until it's in the public session.
Mr. Chair.
Just a moment, Christy, just a moment, please. I'm sorry. Greg, are you done?
So then I'm talking to Marc Lyons, and I'm normally understood the Board of Trustees to be its own entity, with maybe exploring options for exactly what is an operating decision, what is not an operating decision. I'm a new trustee. There's a lot of questions swirling in my mind, which is why I bring up the prior 2 topics. And if I ask a question that is not under lawyer confidentiality, or what's the term, help me out, client privilege, then maybe I don't want I don't have the freedom to ask the questions and explore all the options. So I've understood it to be its own entity, and that's why I'm bringing it before you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, a couple of things on the attorney, first of all.
Yeah, go ahead.
The board attorney represents the entire board, not an individual trustee. If there are concerns about thinking you need legal representation, then I think every individual should seek that legal representation on their own. At no point would the college, or should the college, consider spending taxpayer dollars for individual trustees to have an attorney at their beck and call. That's not, no public official has that. When you run for elective office, you tend to put yourself out there, and your actions, you're responsible for any of the consequences, and you can pay for your own legal services. The other thing about the email, what I did say in my email to you, Mr. Chair, and to the rest of the trustees, is that yes, if you're using your private email to engage with the college administration or other board members, that most certainly falls under the public information laws. And you're correct, Greg, your personal email could be asked for at some point in time. Now that would take some action, but I would advise you to not use your personal email for college business. So I'm not sure, I'm with Mr. Howard, I'm not sure is there a motion here for additional legal services? What exactly is this agenda item? Because we didn't get anything in advance that explains it.
Well, two things. One is Mr. Lyons has advised us, and we are following his advice, that we are using the NIC email system for our communications, which was very sage advice, and we've been doing that certainly since the election time with the two new board members. And secondly, what you said in one sense is actually quite chilling to people that are volunteers to potentially, would be dealing with whatever comes up out of their own pocket. But we'll let that one lay right there for now. But all right, Trustee McKenzie, do you have any additional comments? Trustee Wood threw a question out there.
I'll just request Trustee Wood define college business further.
What do you mean?
How do you define college business? Because personally, I was emailing your personal email, what may consider college business, and I doubt that's in the college system.
No, but you could ask for it through court process.
So you're telling me you're storing them according to Idaho law on your personal system?
You'd be surprised how many emails. Todd, I just sent you an email that I found from 5 years ago. I'm terrible about
For everyone to know, it seems to me that the trustees prior to the election solely used personal email, which got to be convenient because all of my emails in the last 2 months have been FOIA'd, which is a public records request. Any email, any NIC public government sends, you can get a copy of it. Every NIC employee needs to be aware of that, every student needs to be aware of that, and every trustee needs to be aware of that. And that's great for transparency. It's your government working for you.
I'm not sure
You deny that before the election you're using personal emails?
We use both, and I'm happy to share my personal emails for college business. We use both, and I'm not sure that you should be so concerned that the public knows what our emails are when it's college business.
I'm saying I have the right to private conversations, even with NIC employees.
I'm sorry, but I wouldn't agree with that.
You wouldn't, but I would.
Mr. Chairman?
Chair's here, and I'm going to take control of this meeting again, but I think Trustee McKenzie brings up a valid point. It goes to two things. The fact that we're on the Board of Trustees does not negate our ability to speak with members of the NIC community. In fact, I think as their elected representatives, it's incumbent upon us to do so. So I find that interesting. In the same way that I've asked for a system that acts like an IGR ombudsman for complaint resolution and such things. And yet I'm told, well, that will tear apart the chain of command and you can't have good order with that. But yet I'm in a situation in my other life where that's exactly what we have. And I've watched that since I entered military service in 1981. The IG's always been a function of that, and yet it's not undermined authority or the chain of command or anything else, and it works in parallel. So we need the transparency for complaint resolution. And in the same vein, we need to be able to have the communication that anybody should be able to approach a trustee. By definition, we are the elected officials. We work for the communities, the community that elected us, county-wide. And of course, we serve the 5 northern counties as part of our mission at NIC. So I don't understand why we try to make that distinction and say, well, because you're a student or staff or faculty or, you know, whatever, that we can't have communication with you. In fact, one of the things someone got upset about was because I suppose I went into an office and visited with an instructor and closed the door. Would it be so strange to someone that that was a fellow senior military officer, retired, and we have that commonality and we're friends and military brothers in arms? I guess I don't see how egregious that can be. But for somebody to point that out and make that a complaint, it seems awfully petty for two senior military guys, officers, to like each other. Boy, you know, where do we draw the line? You know, I'll just throw this back to you, Trustee Wood, because I know you have a lot of relationships on the campus and friendships. And Trustee Howard, I know you and even our former AD, Al Williams, I think you guys had a breakfast or lunch on a weekly basis, if I recall correctly. So I'm not quite sure where we're going here.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, please. Yes, sir.
Well, this topic is getting rather large, but let me just address a couple of the comments that have been made. I don't think anybody has ever taken the position that trustees can't talk to members of the public or other members on campus. As a matter of fact, the trustee policy that you folks took out of on your first meeting established the fact that we speak as a trustee board. It doesn't mean we can't talk individually to people. We just can't make commitments of the board until we bring it before the board. So there is never been, to my knowledge, any kind of restriction on trustees talking to members of the public or people on campus. If there are
actually, Ken, I would disagree with you, sir. That policy specifically spoke to that and limited the conversation between members of the NIC community and the trustees. It was in the language.
I think if you look at the language, you'll find that as we went through that, Todd, even you made some good recommendations of how to make that advisory and try and show that what we're trying to do is not use our position as trustee to pressure people to do things. And so we were trying to find some language to make sure we didn't do that, but at the same time allowed people to exercise their freedom of speech. There is no restriction on the freedom of speech. But in any event, I think we're way off the topic of.
We are, and Greg was trying to make a point about what can be a personal conversation, what can't, and so I mean, that's a pretty broad topic, and so anyway, I'm sorry, someone asking to say something?
Trustee Howard, I have a question for you. So,
this Trustee McKenzie?
yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Here's the question.
Okay.
Somebody FOIAs my personal email, and I say no. So, who does Marc Lyons represent? Does he represent me as a board entity, anyone on the board? Because it's board-related community college business, is it not? I would think that would be associated with the board, or does he represent the college and Laura Rumpler knocking on my door?
Well, Mr.
They
Chair.
got 10 days to comply with their records request.
Can I just make one comment, please, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, President.
I think it's inappropriate for you to have Laura Rumpler knocking on your door. She's not going to be knocking on your door. Laura Rumpler, an employee of the college, is not going to be knocking on your door.
Whoever fulfills the public records request, then. Maybe not.
Mr. Chair, I think we are off topic, but I would suggest
Okay.
that this again is a training issue on public information laws. And that would be very helpful to the board. I detailed that out in another email, that I'd like to see the new board members and certainly myself and you, Todd, and Ken have a refresher on public information laws. I didn't write the laws, we just have to comply with them. And when you're a public official and you're exchanging information about college business, no matter what format you use, your email is subject to public information laws.
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
very good. Like I said, it was probably timely that we've had the reminders. You know, I've always tried to stay on NIC as much as I can, and I think that's probably wise for all of us. All right, I will, Mr. Trustee McKenzie, Trustee Howard, you were the two gentlemen that were assigned to this item. is there any motion or anything that either of you are inclined to make at this time, or do you believe that we're done with this topic? And I'll start with Trustee Howard first, and then Trustee McKenzie. Trustee Howard, do you have any comment or any thought or anything at this point? Otherwise, we'll move on.
I think we ought to move on.
Trustee McKenzie, or anything final from you, sir?
I make the motion that the board puts out for bid its own lawyer services. Can I get a second?
I want to clarify that motion for just a moment. Would there be a bid? Is that in addition to the services that Marc Lyons is providing to the college itself at this time? Trustee McKenzie?
It has been a long time since it's gone out for bid. So sadly, I'm gonna have to say yes.
Yes, this is. Okay, sorry, did someone else just speak? Okay. Greg, let me make sure I'm clear. Right now, there's a do you see at the end of this, let me ask this question differently. At the end of the day, do you see there being two separate contracts for legal counsel? One that's earmarked as the college specifically, and one that's earmarked as the Board of Trustees specifically?
Yes.
Okay. How do you view Mr. Lyons' contract right now? Do you see him as representing the board in this instance or representing the college?
I think with his institutional knowledge, I think he would be best on the NIC college side.
Okay. So you're looking to make a motion to add a new position that would be legal counsel for the board itself. And of course, if we added that legal counsel, he would work in concert with Mr. Lyons, and it'd be two resources versus maybe just the one now.
I'm very open to two resources. That sounds like a great proposition.
Okay. Okay, so you've made that motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I am a little conflicted on this.
Yes, sir.
In light of our initial resolve for the training, it seems like it falls into the same thing. I'm not sure that the urgency right now demands that we settle this question. I guess I would additionally move that this be tabled until we have appropriate education and understanding of how Mr. Lyons represents us, the board, and the college before we make a decision on this.
Mr.
Trustee, yes, Trustee Howard. Yes.
Yeah, just as a matter of parliamentary procedure, if he doesn't get a second, then the motion fails, and we can bring it up at any time in the future. I don't think we need to table it as a formal matter.
I would agree. I would agree, sir. I was actually going to ask Trustee McKenzie if he would be, in light of Trustee Barnes's suggestion, if he would be willing to, well, I guess if we don't have a second, it's dead anyway, but I was going to ask if he'd be interested with maybe withdrawing the motion at this time.
Sounds like it failed anyway, but I'll willingly withdraw it.
All right. All right. So it's withdrawn. We're not going to formally table it, but I think it's something that we want to be looking at in the future after we get this additional training and we have maybe a little better understanding of this. And if we still feel that this is an appropriate action, that we would put it up for consideration again. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, before you close this out.
Yes, sir. Trustee Barnes.
I don't know whether this requires a motion or not, but can I request that, and maybe it's already been done, that Mr. Lyons would be able to produce whatever documentation we have to review the relationship of the college and either him and or his firm.
To include the current contract, I suspect?
Yes, sir.
I don't know that we need to, okay, let me ask the trustees, does anybody have an objection if we just make that request? Or does anybody feel that we need a motion to make that request?
Mr. Chairman,
I don't think, we don't need a motion. Mark can just give a copy of his contract. It's a public document. Anybody that asks for it can get it. So I'm sure he'll be happy to send a copy to Trustee Michael Barnes and the rest of the trustees.
Mr. Chairman,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, I will happily provide that. This is the first time I've heard this request, so I will happily provide that to whomever wants to see it.
Mark, if I may, if I heard Michael correctly, I think his question or his request, and Ken, maybe you can help me here too, was maybe a little more than just a copy of the contract itself, potentially. Is that if you had any documentation or anything that to kind of reinforce what you said earlier, kind of what your role is with us, and maybe we won't get that till we get more formal training from some other organization. I guess if you had anything that kind of spoke to the relationship that you have with the board and the college, and there may not be such a thing, but I kind of sense that Michael's asking for something along that lines also. And if I'm wrong, Michael, correct me.
I will happily provide what information I can. I really do believe that this is an issue that relates to board training and understanding the roles of the different aspects of the college, because I think there's one entity here, not a board. And I think some review of the Idaho statutes regarding community colleges and training, and then understanding my role better. I think we can facilitate that easily.
Okay. Is there anything else from any trustee on this agenda item number 3 on this topic? Okay. All right. And I think we've completed that topic. We will go to agenda item number 4. Trustee Howard and Trustee Wood are the POCs for that one. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Ken.
Yes. I'm going to start this out by making a motion so we've got something specific to discuss and we don't ramble all over the place. But so my motion is that Chairman Todd Banducci be removed as chair of the Board of Trustees.
I second the motion.
So now if it's open for discussion, Mr. Chair, let me start out by saying that quite frankly, it gives me no pleasure to make a motion like this. I've been watching with some great dread and distress over all of the public comments and all of the discourse that's taken place. Not necessarily from the standpoint of the persons involved, but from the standpoint of the damage that it's doing to the institution that I love so well, which is this college. When there are motions by the faculty and staff, and there's a pending discussion by the Senate, and we have letters to the editor, and they're all discussing issues with regard to the relationship of the administration and the trustees. It breaks my heart, quite frankly. And I think the only way that this can be put to rest, at least until we get the training and we get the background and experience that all of the trustees need, is for the chair to be removed and to be replaced, so that we at least take out of this this dialogue the issues that have been raised in the press and in letters and in discussion. So I think that we are facing a severe public image issue. The community has to have confidence in us. It has to have confidence in the trustees, has to have confidence in the fact that the trustees that they elected are able to carry on an appropriate relationship with the administration so that the college is run in an efficient way and that we are letting the administration do what the administration is obligated to do and quite frankly, what they're paid to do. And right now, that's not been the history that has been disclosed so far. So with that background, I make the motion that the trustee be, that trustee Todd Banducci be removed as chair.
All right. Are there any further comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think it's only fair that I do comment. I'm certain, Mr. Chair, that you're a little bit upset by my letter to the board that detailed patterns of abuse and inappropriate behavior toward trustees, women, faculty, staff, and students. And after 8 years of working together on this board, I did not make that decision lightly to call for your resignation. Public elects their elected officials, and I support the election process. However, as Mr. Howard has stated, this is a crisis in leadership that we're dealing with, and so I'm asking the board to take action. I had hoped our chair would understand his new role as chair, and as a board, we would focus on the good governance of the institution. Certainly had my reservations. Todd, you knew that from the beginning because of my personal knowledge of some of your conduct. But I still hope that we would find a path forward with this chair. Last month, after reading some emails between you and our president, I became very concerned, and I expressed my concerns to this board in writing. I don't think, Trustee Banducci, that as chair, you've understood your level of authority, and you were making decisions and giving direction without the full board discussion. After I had written my letter to the board with my initial concerns about some of your decision-making processes, we did receive a letter from the president of the institution to the full board, explaining to us very clearly that the situation had become untenable for you to carry on with your working relationship. And he detailed some of the concerns that we have seen in the past and some that were new. So with that pattern of behavior and through additional information we received through public information requests, that we saw some emails, I think that we have put the college at great risk for litigation, and we have accreditation concerns that if we don't meet our accreditation standards, then we don't hand out diplomas and our students suffer. So this is incredibly serious, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure it feels personal, but it's really something we have to address. There is a lack of confidence from at least 2 trustees. There's a concern on the working relationship with the president and yourself. The faculty has taken a vote of no confidence, among other things in their resolutions. We're understanding that the staff's coming forward. We don't know what they're going to say. We now have the community very concerned about the actions that have occurred. And we also have, as late an online petition recalling for the removal of Trustee Banducci. So all of these things coming together tells us we have to take action. I would agree with Ken that it's not a permanent removal. At some point, you could always be nominated again, and maybe through some training, professional development, we could all come together and understand what our roles are. So I wouldn't suggest that it be permanent, but I certainly think moving forward right now, we need to calm the campus, calm the community, and all trustees should have the availability of the chair, since you do represent the full board, and certainly the president needs to have a good working relationship. So with that, I support Trustee Howard's motion.
All right. Are there additional comments?
We're at the discussion phase.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Trustee McKenzie. You're on.
So bear with me, everyone. So I'll just read it. Won't work in my public speaking skills. I would like to share my thoughts from a brief experience as a trustee so far. So I do not take any of these events lightly. I strongly disagree with Trustee Wood's claim on January 18th, which she shared with all the trustees and President McLennan via an email exchange. She implied that by not immediately calling for Trustee Banducci's resignation, that I am complicit and therefore guilty in his alleged transgressions. When I say immediate, I mean that in less than 25 hours, without allowing for board discussion, a stance was taken and a path forward. Trustee Howard hadn't even seen Trustee Banducci's emails or Trustee Wood's emails by the time he became complicit in Trustee Wood's mind. Pay attention to the dates I share for anyone who wishes to make a public records request to confirm what I say is accurate and contextual. As I tried to explain to you, Trustee Wood, when I was on the campaign trail, when you refused to even meet with me for a general neutral conversation, I wanted to share that I am my own person with my own actions, set of ideas and opinions. I ran to advance good ideas here at NIC, and I actively wanted to hear what was important to you as a trustee. Unfortunately, what should have been confined to board meetings about our direction has ended up in local newspapers and is the distortion of the facts. Our county and our institution continue to be even more divided, with faculty and staff having now voted or about to vote a no confidence in Trustee Banducci, which you alluded to was 3 times in the history of this institution and mainly directed at a president. Todd and I are members of the Republican Party. That was used against us from the beginning, and Trustee Wood endorsed my opponent partly due to that. I have no problem with her views on issues or party politics. This is a free country with diversity that thrives on debate. However, bringing in personal attacks diminishes this Board of Trustees and the regard that the community holds for us. What is being asked of me is to bring justice upon Trustee Banducci. There are numerous competing opinions of recent events, and before any justice is rendered, there are questions that I want resolved. That is why tonight's agenda items have been pursued. By not answering these questions, in my mind, a bigger injustice to this institution will have transpired. I actively care and am aware of the immense responsibility I have as an individual trustee and part of the board as a whole. I try hard to ensure my words and actions are appropriate for the circumstances. I should not have to state that every trustee should behave in a respectful manner in regard to personal and civil rights of other board members. There are appropriate ways to address grievances and disagreements and to engage in discourse. Boards are about creating engagement and collaboration, and recent actions have hurt the image of our institution. If I were an outside observer, I would find this lack of decorum unsettling. Trustee Wood, from your own email on January 24th, I quote, "It's important to let you know there is no dirty laundry clause in board discussions and meetings," end quote. You have every right to find umbrage with Trustee Banducci. You may not hold him in high esteem. He might actually think the same of you, but I will not speak for him. I do not see Trustee Banducci running to the media, airing your dirty laundry or calling for your resignation while you work to fulfill your trustee's responsibilities the way you see fit. Trustee Wood, on January 16th, even declined for a timely special meeting to address your grievances with Trustee Banducci's actions when he cited the words from the president's contract. Trustee Wood has repeatedly shared with me her skepticism regarding Trustee Banducci and what she considers to be his nefarious actions or thoughts he is conjuring. She has even projected that on me when I attempted to remove agenda items and conjectured my intent was being punitive. In addition, she projected Trustee Banducci's illicit workings on myself on Wednesday, January 20th, when she felt compelled to clarify that I would not merely forward Trustee Banducci's alleged single trustee directives to the president. In the email stream ending at 5:42 p.m. that same day, which is viewable in public records, Trustee Wood failed to clarify which email she felt inappropriately excluded her and has since failed to communicate that detail through any other method though she has been provided ample opportunity. Trustee Wood imagines Trustee Banducci's illicit conniving and then demands to have proof of these imaginings through abuse of the public records process, such as when she threatened to FOIA Trustee Banducci's private emails, and I quote from a January 16th email, "Your private email used for college communications is also subject to public information laws." I could go on about your negative perception of anyone engaging Trustee Banducci with innocent questions when on January 15th, I asked the most innocent of questions about budget to Trustee Banducci, and you recently expressed through phone an unawareness of how much Trustee Banducci and I discussed things, and disappointed in his lack of response. I chose to be part of this board because I love NIC and this community. After joining this board, I've discovered the components that attracted me to this institution, and the direction it is headed is largely due in part to President McLennan. I have very nice things to say about the president, and I look forward to future collaborations and discussions. My family has a personal story where our dreams are actively, slowly being realized. These family dreams have only been made possible by those providing support to programs through the NIC Foundation, directly supporting students and programs here. In time, I look forward to sharing more, but I cannot express enough appreciation and respect for the time, money, and priorities that people willingly provide to NIC affiliated organizations. I would like to capitalize on this national attention of ongoing board drama to emphasize that the programs and initiatives occurring here at NIC are award-winning. We are blessed with the grants NIC has recently acquired to explore entrepreneur programs and continue the ongoing innovation and education we all cherish. For Trustee Wood to suspect my motives would be punitive indicates that she does not respect my personal decision-making process and is trying to bully her own opinions to the top of the pile about the president's salary. To me, that indicates the fundamental differences between individuals sitting on this board. Trustee Wood's January 16th email emphasizes, and I quote with all capital letters, "Share with the rest of the board," when referring to an accounting of sick and vacation days. The burden of proof is on you, Trustee Wood, for several things. One, was Trustee Banducci intentions from any of his emails, specifically the 5 emailed on January 15th, to not share that information with the rest of the board? Trustee Banducci even CC'd the whole board on one of those emails. 2, when has any chair, even yourself, actively reviewed that information spelled out in the contract as being the board chair's responsibility and then shared it with the rest of the board? With regards to the chair reviewing that information, you have previously claimed that that review occurs during an annual review, but I'm honestly personally skeptical at the prior thoroughness based on what I've uncovered of prior board workings. Because in the brief time I've been on the board and continue to learn about board governance and responsibilities of the board, my opinion is that previous boards at NIC have not actively engaged deeply in doing a thorough job. So while you question him, Trustee Banducci is trying to enact his version of the chair's job to the best of his abilities. Yet, Trustee Wood, you solely keep claiming Trustee Banducci is abusing his chair role. There is some interpretability to these positions, just as there is interpretability to conversations. I'm not alone in my opinion of board performance. Consider the following. It was determined that a number of college trustees were not doing their job and that this failure was diminishing the value of higher education. This was based on a study conducted in 2014 provided by the American Council of Trustees and Alumni, and the findings, I have a link to it if anyone wants it. So I'll quote from that. While there is no single cause for this range of problems, one of the critical sources is the failure of higher education governance. That is why the undersigned have come together as longtime friends and supporters of American higher education to call for governance for a new era and to set a path for new and vigorous engagement by academic leadership and boards of trustees. Trustee Wood's behavior in circumventing due process, dredging up issues addressed many years ago, and attempting to force her views using public intimidation in the press are highly inappropriate. Character attacks may serve personal agendas, but do not serve our community and are damaging to the reputation of our college. Our board should strive to have a positive relationship between each member and with the college, and it is my sincere wish and hope that this public smear campaign can be set aside in the best interest of all, and that we may now fully engage in addressing the challenging issues NIC faces, as is our job. My goal is to assist everyone involved in honest resolution, everyone, and hopefully the opposite of an untenable situation which you referenced can be discovered. Thanks for bearing with me.
Mr. Chair.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, trustee. Are there any additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, trustee Wood.
I mean, Trustee McKenzie said a lot, so I won't go point by point. Couple of things that I will address. It appears there is conflict, and I'm quite animated with that. And I had no idea because you and I haven't talked. But I would say that the issue you seem to be most upset about is that not really the behavior that I've identified whatsoever of the board chair toward the president, toward faculty, toward staff, toward fellow trustees. You're upset that I let the public know. That seems to be the biggest issue. And yes, I did send you an email saying that your dirty laundry of elected officials is not protected whatsoever in executive session. You don't want to have dirty laundry, then don't have dirty laundry. The other issue that you accuse me of a public smear campaign. Everything that I wrote about to this board is accurate. So it's not a smear campaign if it's the truth. And I have very, very serious concerns about past behavior, past conduct, and ongoing contact. That's why I'm calling for the removal of the board chair. Not personal between you and me. I can feel some aggression coming from you that you've been quite upset for some while, and I didn't even realize it. So I would just say that the actions that have been laid out have made it perfectly clear it's not healthy for the organization to move forward with a chair position that we all can't agree upon. It doesn't represent all of us. It doesn't have a working relationship with all of us. Doesn't mean it's forever. Hopefully some training would change that. But for now, it's more than appropriate that this board have a board chair that can take us forward.
Are there any other comments at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Trustee Howard.
I listened intently, quite frankly, to what Trustee McKenzie said, some of which I can agree with, particularly the last part about our obligation amongst all of us who sought election to this office to love and work in the best interest of NIC. A diatribe, though, of going after Christie as an attempt to try and address our present issues, I'm not sure that's healthy, quite honestly. Probably it's a good example of why we need some training and maybe some conflict management. But my concerns are, quite frankly, a breakdown as evidenced by the materials that I reviewed in the relationship between the president and the administration and the chair. The breakdown in trust as evidenced by these staff and faculty resolutions, the breakdown in community trust in our institution as evidenced by the articles in the paper and the various other social media broadcasts. Those concern me. And it's not because of Todd, it's because of the impression that the entire community outside and inside the college is getting of who we are and what can we do our job properly. And the way to address that, I think, is to sort of reorganize the relationship and try and reestablish it and try and make it better through training, through conflict resolution. But I think Todd stepping aside or being removed in order to facilitate that would help us tamp down the anxieties that have been created in the entire community, both the outside community and the college community. So this is not about Todd, and I do not want to see Todd destroyed. I don't want to see Todd in any way humiliated. I want to see the college operate again on the level that I think its habit of operating on. And that's why I think we need to move forward with removal Todd as trustee. So this is about an oath that I took to support the college, not to support an individual, and not to support a party, not to support some kind of organization other than NIC.
You know, I wasn't going to say much tonight. I'm not going to say much tonight, and I'm not going to rebuttal or point by point or even address what Christy said. But I will say one thing. If you did not want some of these things to happen, then it would have been nice if there'd have been a conversation a couple of weeks ago to preempt this coordinated PR campaign, because it wasn't me that was standing on the hill waving my arms and shouting from the top of my lungs to draw all this attention. It was all done very intentionally and coordinated. And so it sounded nice what you said, but as the guy that's been on the other side of this, at what point haven't I already tried to be embarrassed or humiliated or diminished or whatever? I think that barn door's been open for quite a while now, and I think all the livestock has got out at this point. So I would just share that we're a little behind that point. So and that's all I'm going to say. Are there any other comments from any other trustees? Okay.
I feel,
Michael, go ahead.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Trustee Barnes.
Sure. I feel like I ought to say something. In my opinion, in reviewing all this stuff, I didn't see anything related to the chairman's requests and behaviors related to the board activities as being particularly egregious. And so I see no reason for me to remove him from chairmanship. These issues should have been resolved in-house within executive session before they ever had a chance to be exposed to the court of public opinion. So I have no stomach for removing him under the pressure of external pressures.
All right. Any additional comments at this time? All right.
I have one more thing.
Trustee McKenzie, go ahead.
I'm unclear. I'll have to listen to the audio, but it seemed like it was at least implied, and forgive me if it was not intentional, that by not removing Todd, that we have some oath to Todd, that we have some oath to party or oath to something. But I'm a trustee and I'm doing the best for what I think is NIC, nothing else. And if anyone insinuates or thinks otherwise, they're mistaken. I call the question.
The question has been called. We will call for the vote on the motion that was made and was seconded on the removal of the chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was Trustee Howard, correct?
Yes.
And Trustee Wood.
And Trustee Wood. All right, thank you. All those that say nay, say nay.
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 Trustee McKenzie, Trustee Barnes. The chair votes nay. The motion is defeated 3-2. The next agenda item is agenda item number 5. I believe that that agenda item is not necessary at this time, so we will skip over that. And I believe that takes us to the end of the meeting. Mr. Lyons, unless there's anything I'm missing, I'm going to call to adjourn the meeting.
Nope, you've covered everything.
Thank you, sir. I declare the meeting adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.